Welcome to Stop Dating Losers. Get your free relationship advice and so much more on my website if you haven't done so already. Subscribe and share this video with everyone you know, and let us go ahead and begin, shall we? Alright, let's see what we have for our first comment here. I saw an Instagram post that said that high-value men don't chase, they attract, because masculine energy isn't needy. But feminine energy gurus say high-value women don't chase, they attract, because high-vibe feminine energy isn't needy. Okay, so it's the same thing. It's all marketing, people. It's all just marketing. Just be yourself. Absolutely. I will say this. I understand what people mean when they refer to a man as a high-value man. I get it. And a high-value woman, I understand. Here's the biggest problem with that. Number one, we don't need these labels. Nobody needs to be called high value. How about just a really great person, a valuable person, and just leave it at that? There's a ton of other compliments, but you can't position a man or a woman as if they're a product in the grocery store or in a mall. That's not the way it works. To say you could say a rich person, but rich is also subjective. Are we talking about just money, or are we talking about she has a rich personality? Now, I know the majority of people, especially the toxic ones, they're going to say, well, a high-value man is a guy who has a lot of money, first and foremost. And I understand not all of the women are gold diggers. They just want to ensure that they can have that lifestyle that they desire. That's what they tend to value, is that lifestyle. Being able to afford things without worrying about going in debt or being poor one day. I understand. Now, is it right? Everybody has their own moral compass, but at the end of the day, it's simply a preference. So who are we to judge? Hopefully, she's a good person. That's just her preference, that she doesn't want to be with what they call brokies, people who can't afford much. Okay, well, who am I to say that they're wrong? I don't think it's right. But if that's what their preference is, so be it. Maybe they want to just be able to afford to have a family and not worry about finances. Now, if the guy falls in love with her and she falls in love with him, kudos. Great for you guys. It looks like you guys are made for each other. Maybe it's not all about the money. It's just that money is a very important factor in the relationship, according to mutual preference. If the guy doesn't mind having a lady by her side that likes money, but is far more interested in him as a person, well, it's up to him to judge whether that's the case. All right, so with that out of the way, let's go ahead and define my definition. Let's go ahead and share my definition of what I believe a high-value man or woman is. I believe a high-value man or woman is a person with a great personality who's honest, truthful, kind, loving, all the good stuff. The personality, first and foremost. The money, well, life is just one big game of survival, isn't it? The strong versus the weak. Which side of the fence do you fall in? Or somewhere in between in the gray battlefield? Okay, that's simply a game of survival. High value, as I define, is someone who never quits. Somebody who is outspoken, not afraid to speak, especially regarding the topic of relationships. You open up and you love the topic because love is everything in your life. Now that to me is a high value person, because you're placing love above everything. You're placing a lifelong partner by your side as your main priority in your life, regardless if you make a lot of money, if you're famous to a certain degree, you have a lot of fame, a lot of people know you, yada yada. Your success on the side is always secondary to the love of your life. If you don't have the love of your life yet, you better get to work, because that to me is setting the standard for you being a high value individual, finding another high value individual. If we have to use the term high value, if we're forced to use high value, that would be my definition. Somebody who is worth spending the rest of your life with, and even into the afterlife. That has to be your attitude, the level of passion. That is my personal definition of what a high value person should be, whether it's the man or the woman. Now, of course, today we have a completely messed up definition of what a high value man is, and we basically don't really have a definition for what a high value woman is. It seems to be that women who love this term high value are the ones to define everything. As this lady here mentioned, feminine energy gurus. Okay, well, that's going to be coming from the women, the supposed women gurus. Okay, so unfortunately, there's a toxic side of women. There's the toxic women who believe a high value man is just a rich man, and they don't really mind if he's overweight, obese, or bald, or whatever. They don't really care. They just want that money. Okay, borderline gold diggers. Or maybe gold diggers flat out with a new definition, high value seeker. Okay, I get it. But nobody really has a definition for a high value woman. So that's why I come in and I say this shouldn't really exist, this whole mess with high value man, high value woman. I think this is just another fad that seems to not want to go away. And I think the people who are obsessed with this definition of what a high value person is are missing the entire point of love itself. They're just looking at things through a messed up lens, a very foggy, smeared. You can't really see clearly with this type of lens. You need to get your eyes out of that lens and see life for what it's always been. Great people, mediocre people, people that you will just not survive in a lifelong relationship with. And that's just the end of the story. Of course, there's tons of details involved in a relationship. But when we start to blanket statement all men and all women as if they're products that you find in a store. And then people, when they go online with online dating, they're trying to say, I'm looking for this type of guy, this type of woman. It's the same thing. We're not ordering pizza for delivery here. You're dealing with real human beings. The best way to meet one is offline. Get offline and stop using these wild terms. This terminology is silly at this point, and it's only going to get worse. I can already predict that 5 to 10 years down the road, we're going to have another definition for a rich man. And I don't even know about the women. How do you define a high value woman when it's out of interest? Okay, a hot body. Well, she doesn't have to. Is that what? Okay, so say a woman has a hot body, but her bank account is dry. Maybe she doesn't have a job. Is she a low value woman at that point? Where are we putting the value? Where exactly is the value being placed? That's the question that needs to be asked. And that's why it's ridiculous to deal with the term high value in the first place. It really shouldn't exist. It should be a person with a very valuable personality, and that's about it. It should be just a compliment, seriously. And based on the preferences that you're seeking in a potential partner. Let's go ahead and move on with that defined, because this whole show is going to be about high value. Watch. Non-monogamy is going to become more popular, but not in a way that benefits low-value men. The high-value men will just get more wives, and the high-value women will have a roster of men. Monogamy only benefits low-value men because it forces women to be stuck with him. What are you even talking about? Talk about what a mess we have here. This comment is absolutely atrocious. Non-monogamous men? Is that what you're talking about? Is gonna become more popular. What are you even talking about? Are you saying just sleep around with everybody, and why? But not in a way that benefits low-value men. What is a low-value man? Somebody who doesn't get married? No, you're saying actually a low-value man is somebody who wants to get married. Monogamy only benefits low-value men. Okay, you're talking about marriage. Why is that? Last time I checked, women want to marry a guy who they see as a high-value man. So that doesn't make sense. That statement is absolutely false. And you say it forces women to be stuck with low-value men? That makes absolutely no sense. See, so it's garbage like this. And this is all thanks to the term high value. And now you have, completely just stupid people. I have to say, just completely stupid people out there trying to dish out their views on what a high value, low value. And this is the convoluted mess that we end up with. Garbage like this. Because they don't know what high value, low value, and there is no official definition. It's basically the quality of your personality. And based on the preferences that you're seeking in a partner. We already went over that. So, next comment. Talk about a trash comment. High value women don't melt in money. They melt in respect, care, and love. Okay. So, a good woman, let's just go ahead and X out the term high value because that's completely useless. Women don't melt in money. They melt in respect, care, and love. Okay, so should men. Okay, so the definition of a high-value man or woman is just simply somebody who puts love first and all the good words, respect, care, honor, everything. Intelligence, wisdom, yada, yada. The list is enormous. All the good stuff. That's pretty much what this high value means. And there is no such thing. I guess there's a low value I would have to be if I was forced to interpret it, to provide a definition, were to be the complete opposite of this. Somebody who's disrespectful, who doesn't care about anything or anyone. And there's a lot of that, unfortunately, today. Who doesn't really want love. They just want to use people. Whether you're a man or a woman, I'm just going to use you for intimate reasons, or I'm going to use you because you have a lot of money in your bank, or you're really popular. Yeah, that's low value in my opinion, but you don't have to say low value. That's the scum of the earth. Everybody knows that. It's pretty evident. It's pretty obvious. So you can see the strong contrast. It really is black and white. Either you're a good person or you're a horrible person. Fill in the blanks. All right, next comment. Psychological ways to make high-value men addicted to your in-vibes. Use responsibly. Oh boy, let's see how powerful this is. It's not magic, it's psychology. Oh boy. You don't need to be the loudest, prettiest, or richest to be magnetic. You just need to know how the mind works. Oh really? Tell me all about it. Here's how high-value women, here it comes, create lasting attraction. Number 1, dopamine hook. Give unexpected compliments. Laugh at his jokes. Yeah, even if they're not funny, right? Surprise him. Dopamine equals addiction. Yeah, because that's exactly what everybody should be doing. Playing mind games, right? Number 2, 80-20 mystery rule. Wow. Be warm 80% of the time. Unpredictable 20%. How ridiculous is that? How do you even measure that? Oops, it looks like I went 75% that time. I got it wrong. Looks like, oh man, the dopamine hit just didn't work. His brain needs to figure you out. Look, you can't even figure out your own brain with this absolutely ridiculous comment here. What are you even talking about? This is so messed up on several levels. It's not magic, it's psychology. What you're talking is magic. You're acting like this 1-2 left hook and maybe an uppercut later on with something else ridiculous is going to do the trick. A magic trick. That's not how it works. And it's funny that you say you need to know how the mind works. Nobody knows how your mind is working at this point. And this is part 1. I wasn't even going to dive into part 2 and who knows how many other parts. A dopamine hook. Addiction. As if we don't have a world of addiction as it is at the present moment, with technology, with food, with negative attitudes, an addiction to being weak-minded, weak emotions, all that. There's too many. Now he wants you to incorporate another addiction with an 80-20 rule. So what is warm? Being warm 80% of the time. How about 100% of the time? Unpredictable. Nobody wants an unpredictable partner. You could be spontaneous in a good way, But unpredictable is pretty uncomfortable if you ask me. 20% of the time, oh, I don't know what my partner's up to. I don't know what to expect next. It's one thing to have a pleasant surprise, but unpredictable, as vague as this person has dished it out. What are you even talking about? Okay, not going to spend any more seconds on that absolutely ridiculous comment. Last comment of the show. There's always talk about high-value men, blah, 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 blah. When are we going to talk about high-value women? There's actually a lot of us, and quite frankly, we're sick of arguing with insecure men who can't handle the fact that they are not the prize. It's weird. It's weird? No, what's really weird is this comment. All right, so it doesn't look like you're a high-value woman at all, if we're forced to define what category you fall into. This is extremely low value in my humble opinion. Okay, so you're arguing with insecure men. Why are you arguing? That seems like a waste of time. Doesn't seem like something a high-value person would bother doing. And you say a lot of us. That's an exaggeration. That's a very insecure exaggeration. I highly doubt that there's a lot of you arguing with. Why would you guys? That's extremely low value. And then, how are men not the prize? How about both of you guys are the prize? How about we just eliminate the word prize altogether? Those are really good recommendations if you'd ask me. Okay, so apparently, you see how toxic this gets? How easily toxic this gets? So a high-value woman argues with other men, let's just say other men, just because I guess they're not happy. That's what really miserable people do. They love to argue a lot. Okay. And then they consider themselves as the prize. So men don't mean anything. So by this toxic female here, who doesn't deserve to be called a real woman, there are no high-value men. And then, you see how upset she is, right? There's always talk about high-value men, blah, blah, blah. She's very upset. And so they go online. This is what these toxic females do. They go online. They whine and moan and complain. And then they're going to set the definitions for themselves and how relationships should work or not work. Because once again, she ended all this with, it's weird. That's just another way of saying that you don't understand what you're even talking about. That's why it's weird to you. So that kind of puts a sock in it. Pretty much. That's pretty sad to see, but that's the type of world that we're living in. These messed up definitions and these new terms, this terminology that's gone absolutely insane as to, we're pretty much treating other human beings as products. Like, how much does this person cost? What do I got to do to get in? How can I get this person to be, quickly on my side with the least amount of effort? There's only one basic formula to love, and that's to get to know each other as best as possible before making any important decisions, especially lifelong choices with that person that should last an entire lifetime. But you guys have to slow down. Now we're at the point to where people are treating each other like objects. And it's really ironic because you have the extreme feminists saying that men treating us, like objects. Well, now you're treating men like objects, useless objects at that. Which is it? What do you guys want? It doesn't sound like you guys know what you want because it looks like you complain about anything and everything. I mean, where's the high value? It's completely absent if you ask me. So with that said, if you made it this far, it's time to become a free member on my website. You'll get free relationship advice and so much more. Also, drop a comment with the topic that you'd like for me to go over on a future show. Much love, everybody.